My husband, Victor Chen, was undergoing treatment for leukemia, but the doctor advised me to prepare for the worst. Cemetery plots were expensive, so I went to the mortuary center to secure a grave. As the staff engraved the name, they saw my husband's name and laughed. "Why so many duplicate names lately?" he said, squatting down to carve. I was drawn to his words. "Who else has the same name?" I asked. "Over there," the staff pointed to the next plot. Coincidentally, her husband is also named Victor Chen. I walked over to the woman, Serena He. She was gentle and calm. She shared that she was married for 10 years. Her husband only sent money, was never home, and likely had a mistress. She said her husband was the CEO of Chen Group, recently diagnosed with leukemia. I instantly froze. My husband is also the CEO of Chen Group and was just diagnosed with leukemia. My gaze fell on the large diamond ring on her left ring finger. It was identical to the one on mine. Feeling an impending dread, my whole body turned cold. I couldn't help but ask Ms. He, "Could I see your husband's diagnosis papers?" I explained I had a friend in the hospital who understood leukemia. She showed me the document under Victor Chen. My whole body trembled uncontrollably. Not only the name, but the age, ID number, and even the hospital were exactly the same. It was a copy of the one Victor had given me. I felt petrified. "Serena," he worriedly asked, "Miss Jiang, you look pale. Do you need help?" I shook my head, unable to even force a smile. With no mind for the engraving, I practically fled the center and took a taxi home. I sat on the sofa for a long time, staring at the photo wall documenting my 8 years with Victor Chen, including a photo of our 5-year-old daughter, Doris Chen, smiling innocently in his arms. I couldn't believe the man who was so gentle and meticulous with me had been cheating behind my back. I closed my eyes and decided to divorce him. Searching through the papers, I finally realized we had never legally registered our marriage. Serena, he had been married for 10 years, and I was utterly shocked to realize that I was the mistress all along. 8 years ago, Victor said his residency abroad made it difficult to register the marriage. I asked him many times if he could transfer his residency since he was back now, especially since we'd need to register our child's residency after she was born. He always smiled and assured me, "Anya, you don't understand. If it were easy, I would have done it long ago. You and our daughter are the two most important people to me. How could I not think of you?" Those words used to be like a sedative. Then, when our daughter Doris was less than a year old, Victor sent her abroad, citing a desire for her to receive a better education. For 5 years, I only saw Doris grow up through photos and video calls. Reflecting now, I shuddered. It turned out he had lied to me too much. Everything was just because he had another wife. I couldn't sit still for another minute. I rushed downstairs to take a taxi to the hospital to find him. Before cutting ties, I had to bring my daughter back. However, I searched every room but found no trace of Victor. I called to question him, "You're not at the hospital. Where did you go?" On the other end, a soft, young woman's voice briefly sounded, then disappeared. Victor coughed lightly, his voice calm. "Anya, I'm at the old family villa. I have some instructions to give. Don't look for me." Before I could ask more, he hung up. He should have been receiving chemotherapy at the hospital. I asked the nurse when the patient in room 8 left. She looked surprised and shook her head before leaving. 8 years into our marriage, Victor had never told me the address of his old family villa. He once said his mother wouldn't accept our relationship, so he didn't want us to bother her. Now, my heart felt completely cold. He had deceived me for 8 years. Exhausted, I leaned on the hospital bed, waiting for his return, and drifted off to sleep. I had a dream. I entered a parallel world identical to mine. In that world, Victor died at the end of our 8th year. His company went bankrupt, and even the house he left for me and our daughter was auctioned off. Because he never told me our daughter's address before he died, I spent my life searching for her. Finally, I found the old Chun's family villa and discovered that Doris didn't recognize me. She stood next to a gentle and beautiful Serena, calling her mom. I left in despair, volunteering to teach in a mountain village when I unexpectedly ran into Victor, the man who was supposed to be long dead. He was driving a luxury car. Next to him was a young woman with curly hair, and in the back seat was a playful little boy. When I stared at him, stunned, he recognized me. In his first glance, he smirked. That woman was just a loyal dog. I got bored and threw her away. Without me, she'd only be miserable. I wanted to rush over and ask him if he was truly Victor and why he had lied to me. But the curly-haired girl looked at me with disdain and sneered, a truly stupid woman. Victor didn't die that year. He just faked his death to escape you and that old woman and live happily with me. I trembled with rage, my eyes unconsciously fixing on the little boy in the back. Victor thought I intended to harm the child. The moment I reached out my hand, he violently pushed me off a cliff. The sensation of free fall was so real that I woke up with a start. I found myself still in the hospital room. Dawn was breaking and the room was as empty as before. I stared blankly at the ceiling. If that dream had occurred in a parallel world, it was highly likely that Victor was merely staging his death now. I forced myself to recall the dream. When he died, I never saw his body or ashes. The doctor only gave me a suicide note, saying his body was taken away by the family in the old villa for private cremation. At that time, I was so heartbroken that I believed it, never suspecting he might have faked his death. I clenched my fists. Victor, if you are truly faking your death to run off with your mistress, I will make sure you die for real this time. I contacted the mortuary center and got Serena's phone number. The moment the call connected, her gentle voice sounded. "Hello, Miss Zhang? Is something wrong?" I left the hospital, trying to trace her location while subtly asking about Victor. I took the liberty to ask, "Miss Chen, if I may, do you have a daughter named Doris Chen?" Serena was stunned. "How do you know?" I was speechless, realizing the dream was real. I took a deep breath and said, "Miss Chen, can we meet?" If I'm not mistaken, Doris is my daughter. At the cafe, Serena sat across from me, looking shocked, her eyebrows slightly furrowed. I recounted everything that happened between Victor and me. "I am truly sorry," I said, my voice hoarse. "I just found out I was turned into the mistress. We lived together for 8 years. He lied that he had no wife, only conflicts with his family at the old villa, and residency issues preventing marriage registration. My daughter, Doris, was taken away by him right after she was born, claiming it was for a better education. For 5 years, I could only see her through photos and video calls. My eyes reddened. If I'm not wrong, Victor telling us he has leukemia is just to fake his death and run away with his mistress. He will complete his fake death plan by the end of this year." I spoke with utmost seriousness, but Serena merely laughed softly. "Miss Jiang, you were just the woman he kept outside. Why should I believe you? Furthermore, even if he truly has other mistresses, be it mistress number 3 or 4, it makes no difference to me. As long as my marriage certificate with him is valid, I am his legal wife, and Doris is the child we legally adopted. She is my daughter. Ms. Zhang, why would I help you?" Serena was frighteningly calm. She didn't seem to care if Victor was faking his death, believing he would never deceive her. She lowered her head, took a sip of coffee, and smiled faintly. "Perhaps you don't know why he gave Doris to me? It's because I can't have children. Actually, I already said at the mortuary center I have long known Victor has other women outside, but it's okay. After 10 years of marriage, I know human feelings can't last forever. As long as he doesn't divorce me, I remain Mrs. Chen with endless money to spend." Hearing this, I burst out laughing. Serena looked surprised. "Did I say something wrong? You don't even have a marriage certificate. What good is it even if he had a child with you?" I believe Serena misunderstood. I was not here to fight over a man, but to find an ally. "Miss Chen, if I tell you that by the end of this year, Victor will truly stage his death and steal all the assets. What will you think? But then the only thing you will have is a death certificate and a mountain of debt from his company. Oh, and his company will also declare bankruptcy before the end of the year. You thought he gave you a marriage certificate to put you in a special position? In reality, he didn't even leave you a single way out. Serena's expression gradually changed. She remained silent, thinking for a long time, then looked straight at me. Then tell me what we should do now? I placed my coffee cup down, a slight smirk on my lips. He wants to fake his death from leukemia? Then we'll grant him his wish. I only want my daughter. The assets are all yours. I won't take a single penny. Is that sincerity enough? I didn't care if Serena minded the betrayal or not. For me, betrayal was unforgivable. When Victor proposed to me, he swore he would be faithful forever and never lie. Yet, he lied to me for 8 years. I would never forgive a man like that. I contacted the mortuary center again, asking them to prepare the plot because it might be needed in just a few days. A few days later, I sat in the hospital and called him. Honey, why haven't you been back for a few days? If you don't get chemotherapy for so long with leukemia, won't you die? Victor paused for a few seconds. Anya, I'm coming to the hospital for chemo today. When he arrived, his assistant politely said, Ms. Jiang, please step out for a moment. For months, every time Victor had chemo, they asked me to leave. I initially thought it was his pride, afraid I'd feel sad seeing him like that. But now I knew he was just putting on an act. Okay, I'll wait in the hallway, Victor. As I turned to leave, I quietly took his phone from the bedside table. Just as I stepped out, the phone lit up with a text message. CEO, the death certificate is ready. Everything is set. I narrowed my eyes, a slight curve on my lips. It seemed the play was about to begin. Half an hour later, the chemotherapy hadn't finished, but the whole ward suddenly descended into chaos. Emergency! Hurry! Emergency! The doctor pushed the gurney out. Victor lay unconscious, being rushed to the operating room. The assistant rushed after them, his face streaked with tears. He came up to me, his voice trembling. Miss Jiang! I'm afraid Seal Chun is in grave danger this time. Before he lost consciousness, he asked me to tell you to go home and get the lucky amulet, saying it was important and that you got it for him. Please, take a trip home. I'll stay here for the CEO. I smiled coldly. In my dream, Assistant John said the exact same thing, using the amulet as an excuse to send me away. And when I returned, Victor's body had been taken away by his family. I never saw him again. I smiled, pulling the lucky amulet from my pocket and holding it up in front of Assistant John. Did you mean this one? I brought it already. He stared at the amulet for a long time, his face stiffening. What's wrong? Any other issues? If there's anything else missing, please go get it yourself. Mr. John, I will stay here to watch over my husband. Assistant John looked like he wanted to say something, but was silenced by my cold gaze, choosing to remain quiet. I calmly sat in the hospital corridor, occasionally checking my phone and sending a few messages. He was flustered, not knowing what to do, finally attempting to persuade me. Miss Jiang, it's late. Please go home and rest. I will contact you immediately if anything happens. I smiled politely. Mr. John, if you're tired, please go first. I will stay here and wait for my husband. I knew he just wanted to get rid of me to conspire with the doctor to forge the death certificate, but this time, I would take that certificate myself. Additionally, I instructed them to take Victor's body to the crematorium. 2 hours later, the doctor walked out of the operating room, his voice calm. I'm sorry, we did our best, but the patient did not make it. After saying this, he quickly exchanged glances with Assistant John. They had clearly conspired beforehand. Victor's body, covered in a white sheet, was pushed out of the operating room, ready to be transferred to the morgue. I pretended to be utterly devastated, rushing forward and pounding hard on his chest. You bastard, how could you leave like this? What about me and our daughter? You took her abroad and never told me where she is. Where am I supposed to find her now? Don't die. Wake up. I punched him hard. He remained motionless, probably injected with sedatives that left his body completely devoid of vital signs. Assistant John, his face pale, frantically pulled me away. Ms. Jung, CEO Chun is gone. Please stop this. He was calling someone repeatedly. If I guessed correctly, it was the Chun family waiting to receive the body. As long as they arrived, Victor could be taken away, change his identity, and continue living, leaving me with only a death certificate and no ashes. But no one answered the phone. Assistant John was sweating profusely, his voice panicked. Answer the phone, hurry up and answer. Where is everyone? I smiled faintly. Of course, no one would answer or arrive in time because Serena had helped me stall them. Now, I only needed to find a way to take Victor to the crematorium as quickly as possible before the Chun family could react. I took out my phone and ordered a large van. Then, the body and the gurney were loaded onto the vehicle. Assistant John rushed after them, yelling, "Ms. Jiang, you cannot take the CEO's body." I stopped, turned back, and looked at him, my voice icy. "Why can't I take my husband's body?" Assistant John stammered, sweating. "To be honest with you, you are only the CEO's girlfriend. He has a legal wife." Before passing, the CEO told me to personally deliver the body to his wife. The smile on my lips faded, so he knew everything early on. It was just men covering for each other, hiding me in the dark together. I laughed coldly. Then, do you know? Does Mrs. Chun know her husband had other women outside? I took steps toward him, my eyes sharp. You knew Victor was cheating and still helped him conceal it. Then, can I sue you for complicity in marriage fraud? After all, at the wedding I and Victor held 8 years ago, you were the witness. Assistant John's face went from green to white. He continuously wiped his sweat. He probably never expected me to push him into taking the blame. Ms. Jiang, calm down. I don't know how to explain this, but please wait a moment. I certainly didn't wait, and the van didn't wait either. By the time Assistant John realized it, the vehicle had sped straight toward the crematorium. He couldn't catch up even if he wanted to. I ignored him, immediately calling Serena, telling her to break away from the Chun family's surveillance and head straight to the crematorium. When I arrived, Victor's body had already been loaded into the furnace. He lay peacefully, truly looking like a dead man. I heard Serena had just given some money to the staff, asking them to move him up the schedule. Behind us, Assistant John ran up, frantically screaming, "Don't cremate! Stop!" But it was too late. The staff member pressed the ignition button, and Victor's body was pushed into the fire chamber. Assistant John desperately hammered on the heat-resistant glass, but the flames inside were already raging violently. Serena blinked, turned to me, and whispered, "Did I imagine it?" He seemed to move. Then the fire swallowed him. I nodded. I saw it too. But it doesn't matter. We have the death certificate. To make his fake death believable, Victor had spent a large sum of money asking the doctor to forge the paperwork. But the moment the doctor took it out, I snatched it first, holding onto it tightly. Now, no matter what the Chen family or his mistress claimed, I could confirm Victor was dead, and that's why we cremated him. Assistant John collapsed onto the floor, staring blankly at the blazing fire chamber, tears streaming down his face. CEO Chon, I'm sorry, I truly apologize to you. I smiled with interest, turning on the voice recorder on my phone. Assistant John, what does Victor's death have to do with you? Why are you apologizing? Or did you do something unethical? Assistant John stammered, unable to speak, only sighing in despair with tears. Suddenly, a sharp woman's voice rang out. "What are you doing?" "Where is my son? Where is Victor?" I narrowed my eyes, seeing a woman over 50 rushing over in a panic. Before I could react, Serena leaned in and whispered, "That's Mrs. Chun, Victor's mother." I instantly understood. In my dream, the person who helped him fake his death was this Mrs. Chun. She was also the one who instigated him to betray his wife, trick me into marriage, and give birth to a child 8 years ago. She wanted me to be a surrogate, but the baby I gave birth to was a girl. Therefore, Mrs. Chen again urged Victor to find a new target, a fourth mistress, just to have a son. If not for that dream, I truly wouldn't have believed such a futile and malicious person could exist in the 21st century. Mrs. Chen furiously rushed over, raising her hand and forcefully slapping my face. "You wretched Anya Jiang! Is that you? My son was peacefully lying in the hospital, and you just had to drag him to the crematorium. You truly are an uneducated wretch with no proper upbringing." The moment she finished, my face turned cold, my eyes sharp. Without any hesitation, I slapped her back. Where did this wicked old hag come from, assaulting people in public? You think young people like me are easy to bully? The atmosphere instantly froze. Everyone gasped, pointing and discussing. This girl is so bold. No matter what, the old lady is an elder. How dare she hit back? Mrs. Chen was so furious she could barely breathe, trembling as she pointed a finger at me, speechless. I didn't care to spare her any face. She wasn't my mother-in-law. Even if Serena was scared, I was not. Her son deceived me for 8 years, kidnapped my daughter, keeping us separated for 5 years. I hadn't even settled the score yet. Now that she came looking for trouble, I'd settle it all. Mrs. Chen was about to pounce again, and I rolled up my sleeves, ready for a fight. "Come here, you ill-mannered old thing." She was furious, her face flushed red. "You wretched girl, you truly are uneducated." I laughed coldly. I am educated, but it depends on who I'm dealing with. I am polite to decent people, but for trash like you, I'm ready to abandon all morals and let you suffer. Mrs. Chen tried to use her superior status to intimidate me. "Fine, Anya Jiang. You dare to disrespect your elders and violate the Chen family's rules? I must teach you a lesson." I merely curled my lip in disdain. Victor and I were never legally married. By what right was she talking about violating the Chen family's rules? I spoke coldly, "Mrs. Chen, I have called the police. I'm accusing you of marriage fraud, coercion, kidnapping, and human trafficking. Oh, and Victor is dead. Tell me, who will the police arrest to take responsibility now?" Serena looked at me with admiration, while Mrs. Chen was so enraged her face turned purple like a pig's liver. She was about to curse further when a staff member carried out a wooden box. "May I ask who is the next of kin for Mr. Victor?" "These are his ashes. My son?" Mrs. Chen heard that sentence and fainted instantly. Serena took the urn, while Assistant John rushed Mrs. Esses to the hospital. Before they left, I told Serena, "It's likely that a woman claiming to be pregnant with Victor's son will come demanding a share of the assets in a few days. When that happens, you just state firmly that Victor was originally infertile, and if she insists, ask her to provide proof. Now that Victor has been cremated into ashes, she has no sample for a DNA test. She can't do anything." Serena had lived with him for 10 years and had no children, only to end up like this. Why should women make life miserable for each other? Now, I only wanted to bring my daughter home, and I knew how to prove that Doris was not Victor's biological child. That way, I could rightfully bring her back. Indeed, not long after, Serena called me. A girl with wavy hair came looking for her, claiming to be pregnant with Victor's son and admitting to his fake death plan. She said the baby was a boy and demanded 2/3 of the assets. Serena immediately reported her to the police for fraud and chased her out of the house. After all, in this day and age, everything needs proof. Without evidence, no one would believe mere words. After waking up in the hospital, Mrs. Chen couldn't find me, so she vented all her anger on Serena. She cited the Chen family's rules, forcing her to kneel for punishment. Amidst the biting cold, she even forced her to catch fish in the river to cook porridge for her. Pushed to the extreme, Serena decisively sold all the houses and company shares, converting them into cash and transferring half of the fortune to my account. When I received the enormous sum, I was stunned. "Serena, I told you I don't need the money. I just want my daughter." I thought she was trying to use the money to silence me and wasn't planning on returning my child. But on the other end, Serena merely smiled. "Don't worry, your daughter will definitely be returned to you. This money is what you deserve. You've endured a lot of injustice over the years." She added, "Lately, I've been doing some mental preparation with Doris so the little girl can gradually accept you." She explained that for the past 5 years, Mrs. Chen had constantly instilled in Doris that her birth mother was a bad person, making the child hate me. It would take time for her to accept me, but Serena promised to bring her to meet me soon. Tears welled up in my eyes. By Christmas, Serena truly brought Doris to me, but she had bruises all over her body and face. "What happened to you? Who did this?" I asked, panicked. Serena just shook her head and smiled. Just the price of escaping that prison. She had decisively sold all the assets, including the villa where Mrs. Chen lived. She said everything jointly owned by her and Victor that could be transferred, she transferred. Everything that could be donated, she donated. Not a penny was left for the Chen family. I was amazed by her change, but she only smiled and said, "Because I discovered Mrs. Chen never considered me family, only a tool. The reason I couldn't have children was because Mrs. Chen harmed me. If it weren't for that malicious old hag, I might have had my own child long ago and become a mother. I will never forgive such an evil old person in my life." Mrs. Chen was furious, screaming to call the police and arrest the murderer, Serena and me. Especially when she found out Serena had sold all her son's houses and company, she went mad, grabbing her cane to confront Serena. Unexpectedly, due to extreme anger, she suffered a stroke that day. Before the ambulance arrived, she passed away instantly. It was truly divine justice. The 2 graves that Serena and I had purchased both had Victor's name engraved on them. Now it worked out perfectly. One grave was for Victor's ashes, and the other only needed a few strokes changed to become Victor's mother. Anyone passing by would surely exclaim, "How perfect!" Thanks to Serena's persistence, Doris gradually accepted me. Since the child had lived with her for 5 years, she couldn't be separated immediately. Therefore, we discussed a shared custody schedule. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the child stays with me. Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, she stays with Serena. Although it originated from a tragedy, from now on, Doris has 2 mothers who love her, and I sincerely don't mind. As long as my child is loved, that is enough. For convenience in care and pickups, Serena and I bought 2 adjacent houses, becoming neighbors. When we don't want to cook, we gather to eat hot pant together. And when we need private space, we can each live our own lives. We gradually became true friends. Serena often asks me, "Aren't you going to start over? Find a decent man to live a new life?" I just smile and shake my head. I've always thought life without men is closer to freedom and perfection. I have Doris and friends by my side. That's enough. As for Serena, who is gentle, beautiful, tasteful, and intelligent, she has many suitors. I help her choose and encourage her to bravely move forward. Doris and I both wish her happiness,